Wordwright's Rewrite Rummy is a rich, deep, competitive word-building and reforming game to see who can score the most points by making and capturing other players' word melds. Similar to the Writers Group games, Rewrite Rummy differs in that you must pick up a card and discard one each turn, and you own the word melds you build or modify. Additionally, word melds are made with a minimum of 3 word parts. The goal is to score the most points over a series of rounds. You score point values for words that are played in front of you at the end of each round. Your played words can be rewritten or taken by other players that add at least 1 card from their hand. On the flip side, if you keep all of your cards in your hand without playing them, you may end up losing a lot of points at the end of the round. Deal 10 cards to each player. The rest of the cards form the card supply. Flip the top card up to form the first card in the discard pile. The starting player looks at his hand and decides to either take a card from the discard pile or to take a card from the card supply. If the player takes 1 or more cards from the discard pile, they must use the bottom card to form a word meld immediately. Player 1 opts to take a card from the card supply, ply, and makes the words transformation and contracted, placing them out in front of him, and debates which card to discard, finally going with calm to end his turn. He places his discard so that all cards can be seen. Player 2 looks through her hand and decides on whether she will pick up from the draw deck or the discard pile. She takes calm from the discard pile and is required to play the card immediately in a word. She makes compressing. She sees exported at first in her hand, but then she starts to think that she wants to rewrite player 1's transformation. She can take it if she adds at least 1 card from her hand and rearranges all used parts into valid words. She first moves the shun card to make room for at and if to make transformative. She needs to use the shun card in a valid word, or else she has to put all the parts back. She makes action, but needs to use at least 3 parts. So she takes the trans part from transformative to make transaction. She also makes exposed from her hand, discard a card, and ends her turn. Player 1's second turn. He takes a card from the draw deck in and sees a chance to take back a word from player 2 by rewriting formative into informative. But that is his only move, so he discards sieve and ends his turn. Player 2 opts to take all the discarded cards by picking up from Itty. She must use Itty immediately, but the other cards can be played or become part of her hand. She rewrites player 1's informative into formative and uses fin from her hand to make infinity. She discards sieve and ends her turn. Player 1 picks up it from the card supply. He sees a word he can form from his hand, implicit, using the plick variation of the ply card. He could have instead tried to rewrite more of player 2's words, but he decides to close off this round by discarding his last remaining card face down. Players count up their points by separating out their cards. Points are color-coded, 3 points for red, 2 points for yellow, and 1 point for green. Player 1 scores 10 points for this round. Player 2 loses points from the cards in her hand. She zeroes it out by removing a played 2-point card from her played cards. She scores 23 points for this round. Play several rounds until one player reaches a predefined goal, usually 50 or 100 points. And the game can be played with 2, 3, or 4 players. One other way of scoring not shown in this video is if there is a complete word of 3 or more word parts in the discard pile, any player may call out the word and take the parts even if it's not their turn. Rewrite Rummy is an excellent game for both experienced and novice Wordwright players.